Hi there. Think about the last time you had a fight, a conflict with someone you deeply cared about, someone very important to you. Maybe your partner, parents, siblings, friends, colleagues. Did you go straight into battle mode, ready to kind of hash it out? Did you shut down and withdraw yourself from the situation? Or did you kind of smooth everything out, smooth everything over, agreeing just to make the tension stop? Avoidance, basically. So here's what most people don't realize. Your fighting style, your fight style was decided way before you even knew what conflict was. You didn't choose it consciously. It was kind of installed in you like a piece of software. Through years of watching, experiencing, observing, and adapting to the conflicts happening around you, be it at home or workplace or at the playground. And here's the thing that really matters. Your conflict style isn't just about you. Let me repeat that. Your conflict style is not only about you. It's about the system you're part of. Now you might be asking, what system am I part of? What are you talking about? I'll come to that. But I want you to keep this in mind. Your conflict style is not just about you, it's about the system that you are a part of. When two people's conflict styles come together, when they meet, they create something neither person brings alone. And that's what we are going to be unpacking today. I'm Rahul from the Huddle Institute of Psychology, Philosophy, and Spirituality, and this is the very first episode of our third season. Welcome. All right, so let's start with a question. Question to get you started. Why do some people lean into conflict whilst others run away from it? Some people lean in, others withdraw from fight. Why do some of us become aggressive when challenged while others go just completely silent? It's worth thinking about. The answer is not about willpower or personality defects or any of such things. It's about adaptation. Your conflict style, the automatic. So, what is your conflict style? What do I mean by that? Your conflict style is basically the automatic way you respond when faced with tension. When tension arises, the automatic way of your response is basically your conflict style, was shaped by the relational system you grew up in. You watched how your parents fought or didn't fight. You learned which strategies kept you safe when you were a kid, which ones earned you approval, and which ones got you in trouble or which ones ended up hurting you. And over time, that pattern became your default. But here's where it gets more complex. Your conflict style doesn't exist in isolation, as I mentioned before. It only shows up in relationship with others, right? Because you're not standing in front of the mirror and arguing with yourself. It shows up, your conflict pattern, your conflict style shows up in relation to someone else. So it's within a relational system that it arises and manifests. And when your style meets someone else's style, your partners, your colleagues, your friends, your child's, whoever, you create a system dynamic that's bigger than either of you. That's what happens when two conflict styles come together. You create something bigger than both of you. This is what we often get wrong about conflict. We think if only they could communicate better, right? Or I just need to control my temper. We locate the problem in individuals. We think people individually are the problem. But conflict patterns live in the space between you and I. If you and I are engaged in conflict, the conflict patterns live in the space between you and I, not only or not necessarily in me and you alone. They are maintained by a kind of circular causality. I'll explain all this. A circular causality where your behavior triggers mine, which triggers yours, which reinforces mine, and then it's a feedback loop. I hope you're beginning to understand where I'm going with this. Understanding your conflict style isn't about labeling yourself. It's about seeing the pattern you're caught in and then recognizing where you have the capacity to shift your pattern. That's what expands your freedom in relationships. Knowing you have options far beyond your automatic response. So, in this episode, we are going to decode the 5 main conflict styles. All right, 5 main conflict styles. Understand how they develop, and most importantly, see how they kind of interact in systems to create the dynamics that either build connection or destroys it. So let's get into it. Let's talk about the 5 conflict styles to begin with. And these 5 conflict styles that psychologists have identified kind of comes from decades of research. Most notably the Thomas Kilmann conflict mode instrument. Just to drop the technicality there. So, let's get into the 5. First, the first conflict style is called competing. This is the I win, you lose approach. Competing means you prioritize your own needs and goals above the other person's, or I prioritize my own needs and goals above yours. Simple. You're direct, assertive, and often aggressive. when you are in this mode. You see conflict as some sort of a battle that needs to be won. So that is what competing conflict style is all about. It's I win, you lose. This is a battle that I need to win. I see it as a battle that needs to be won. And I'm usually very direct and assertive, and I'm very aggressive. Second, now before I get into that, people develop, let me just talk a little bit about how this comes about. People develop a competing style of conflict when maybe they grew up in environments where being strong meant survival, or where vulnerability was punished. Maybe expressing needs directly was the only way to get them met. Or maybe they learned that backing down meant being overlooked or controlled. So there was no choice. You grew up in circumstances where you just had to be aggressive, to be seen, to be heard, to be cared for. And when people are kind of brought up in those kinds of environments, they are likely to develop a competing style of conflict. Second style is avoiding. This is the I lose, you lose approach. Though it doesn't feel like that in the beginning. Avoiding means you just sidestep conflict completely, entirely. You sidestep it. You just don't want it. So you change the subject, you leave the room, you pretend the issue doesn't even exist. Avoiders often grow up in homes where conflict was terrifying, possibly. Explosive anger, cold withdrawals, or relationships that kind of shattered over disagreements. So the lesson learned from all of that was possibly that conflict destroys connection. So why would you do it, right? Conflict destroys connection. So better to keep the peace than risk the relationship. So that's the dynamic behind the avoiding conflict style. The third style is accommodating. And this is the you win, I lose approach. So accommodators prioritize all the time the other person's needs over their own. So I prioritize you over me all the time, period. I'll be quick to agree to whatever you want. I just kind of apologize, or I give in, even when I don't really feel like doing it. I just do it to keep you happy. So this style often develops when love felt conditional on compliance, right? Maybe you learned that your needs were too much, or it was too inconvenient, or less important than keeping others happy. So accommodation became the price that you were willing to pay for belonging. So just to feel that belongingness, you're willing to accommodate. So that's the dynamic behind the third conflict style, which is accommodating. The fourth style is called compromising. This is the we both win some, lose some approach. We both gain something and we both lose something. Now, compromisers always kind of look for the middle ground. They are willing to give up something to reach a solution that's kind of acceptable to both parties, even if it is not ideal. This style tends to kind of develop in environments where fairness was valued, but where deeper emotional processing was not modeled. Fairness over emotional processing. So it's basically practical, pragmatic, efficient, but it often stops short of true understanding. Compromising stops short of true understanding. It is practical, pragmatic, efficient, middle ground. Let's get on with it. We'll lose some, we'll win some. Okay. But it's still not full understanding. The fifth is collaborating. This is the we both win approach. Collaborators believe that with enough effort, if you put in enough effort, you can find solutions that meet both people's needs and requirements. It's possible. You believe that. And you're willing to work for it. So they are willing to kind of dig deep, dig deeper, stay with that discomfort for longer, and work through messy issues until a genuine resolution kind of emerges. This style typically develops when people experienced conflicts being resolved with respect, with curiosity, and also, of course, emotional safety. It requires the most psychological resources compared to all the other styles. Collaborative style requires the most psychological resources, such as time, trust, and distress tolerance. All of this is required for you to kind of dig deep, stay with discomfort until a genuine resolution that works for both of us kind of emerges. And now here's what's really, really important and critical. None of these styles, none of these 5 styles is inherently good or bad. There isn't a good bad thing here. Each exists because it served a particular function. It is important to remember that. Each protected you, each style protected you or helped you navigate the systems you are in at specific times of your lives. The problem isn't about having a conflict style. The problem is when your style is the only tool. Your style is the only tool in your toolbox. Or when it's no longer serving you in your current predicament or current relationship problems. That's the problem. So, according to John Gottman's research, he's a very famous researcher in the subject matter of relationships. The healthiest relationships are not defined. Let me repeat this. The healthiest relationships aren't defined by having the right conflict style. They are defined by flexibility, the ability to shift styles based on what the situation might actually require, what the situation might actually need. Flexibility is more important than right or wrong style. Now, let's kind of zoom out. Let's zoom out for a bit and look at this whole thing through the systems thinking lens. because this is where it gets really, really interesting. And this is what is going to be interesting throughout season 3 of our content. Your conflict style isn't just a personal trait. And this is probably the third time I'm mentioning that. It's part of a larger pattern in the relational system. And when two people come together, I'm repeating, whether you come together in romance, friendship, co parenting, professional relationships, whatever, their conflict styles interact to create emergent dynamics. I'm going slow so that you can really pick up what I am saying and ponder these things and think about them. Their conflict styles come together and create emergent dynamics that neither person brings alone. So let me give you an example. So assume you are an avoider and your partner is a competitor. You withdraw when conflict arises because that's what feels safe for you or to you. But your withdrawal frustrates your partner, who interprets your withdrawal as dismissal or stonewalling. Are you getting me? So you withdraw from the conflict because you feel that is what is safe for you, but your partner sees it and interprets your withdrawal as dismissal and stonewalling. So they escalate. They get louder, more insistent, more aggressive, trying to get you to engage. But their escalation confirms your worst fear. You get me? So they are going to get more aggressive because they felt you stonewalled them. So they become more aggressive to get your attention, to get you to engage, which reinforces your fear, your initial fear, that conflict is dangerous. So you withdraw even more. You withdraw further. And their frustration then intensifies even more. So you withdraw again, and again they are frustrated. So they compete harder. This, what I have just explained, is what is known as circular causality, because it just goes on in circle, on and on and on. You withdraw, they attack. You withdraw again, they attack. You withdraw, they attack. Goes on ad infinitum. Goes on forever. Circular causality. You're not avoiding because they're competing. They're not competing because you're avoiding. Both are happening at the same time. Each response triggering the other in an endless, infinite loop. This system has now taken a life of its own. It's bigger than either person's individual style. It's a pattern that kind of maintains itself through feedback loops. That's the problem. And here's another example that I want to throw at you. Two accommodators in a relationship. On the surface, this seems great, right? Harmonious, both accommodating, right? No one fights. Everyone's nice. Nice. But what actually happens? Both people suppress their real needs, both prioritize the other. I prioritize you, you prioritize me, and this goes on. And over time, we become resentful. Resentment builds because neither person feels truly seen or known. The relationship feels safe, but it's actually shallow. It's actually very, very shallow. It's not deep. Intimacy cannot develop because vulnerability has been traded for compliance. There's no vulnerability in the relationship. It's just compliance. I comply with you, you comply with me. And we both be nice to each other. We both smile to each other. We both give each other ice creams and flowers. There's no conflict, there's no fight. Both are nice to each other. But there is no real feeling or expression of what I need and you need, and we are not validating each other. We are not being vulnerable in front of each other, and therefore there is no intimacy that is being built between us. And the system here is one of conflict avoidance, right? So it is conflict avoidance disguised as harmony. And it's maintained by a shared unspoken rule. We don't rock the boat. That's the unspoken rule. Or let's take another example. Two competitors in a relationship. They fight constantly and they fight intensely. Every disagreement becomes a battle for dominance. The system here is one of perpetual combat, one-upmanship all the time, and it's frankly, obviously, exhausting. So what's crucial to understand is this. The system often stays stable even when it's dysfunctional. So you must have, multiple times in your life, you must have come across the phrase, the system is like that, the system is like this, such is the system, right? Our education system is like this, our healthcare system is like this, system is, political system is like this. What can we do? Nothing will change. We say that casually. But have you thought about why that and how that phrase came about? What is this system? And why are you saying that this is the system? And why are you resigningly saying that, such is the system? Assuming that it won't change. Why are you saying that? We often accept it as a very, very strong reality. But what's behind that? That's what I'm trying to come to. Whether it is dysfunctional or not, systems have ways of remaining stable, even if it is dysfunctional. Why? Because systems resist change. They have homeostatic mechanisms, meaning they have ways of maintaining their current state. Systems have ways of maintaining their present state. That is called homeostatic mechanisms. In the avoider-competitor dynamic, attempts to change are met with resistance. Because if the avoider tries to engage more directly, the competitor might unconsciously escalate further to maintain the familiar pattern. Remember, the system wants to maintain what is familiar, not accept something new. Or if the competitor tries to soften, become more reasonable, the avoider might withdraw even more. Why? Because feeling uncomfortable with this sudden new dynamic. This is why individual change is hard. Individual change is hard without system awareness. You're not just changing yourself, you're destabilizing a pattern that both people have unconsciously agreed to maintain. Unconsciously agreed to maintain. So you and your partner have unconsciously agreed to maintain a dysfunctional system. And changing that is difficult because it's unfamiliar. So the question becomes, where can you intervene in the system? Where can you intervene in the system? Where are the leverage points? The places where small changes can actually create big shifts. Where are the leverage points in the system? That's the question. So let me make this concrete with a few scenarios that I want to share with you. Couple of them. Let's start with a romantic example, a romantic relationship. Avoid a competitor situation. Priya and James, case studies, anonymized, have been together for a couple of years. Priya is an avoider. I mean, she immediately shuts down when James raises his concern or he raises his voice, and she just goes cold. James is competitor. He wants to solve things immediately and gets frustrated when Priya goes quiet. So last week, James wanted to discuss family money issues, finances. Priya felt immediately overwhelmed and said, "Oh, can we talk about this another time?" James heard that as avoidance, and so he pushed harder. "We need to deal with this now. Now. This is urgent." Priya shuts down completely. James felt dismissed. He feels that he has been completely dismissed by Priya, so he gets angry. The pattern reinforced itself. He gets angry, she withdraws, etc., etc. The circular causality that I mentioned before. Let's take another example. A co-parenting situation. Two accommodators, Amit and his ex-wife Sarah, both accommodate. When their daughter misbehaves, neither wants to be the bad guy. They defer to each other. What do you think we should do? What do you think we should do? Their daughter has basically learned to play them against each other. So the system is very, very stable. Everyone avoids conflict, but the child doesn't have any clear boundaries, and both parents feel completely useless and ineffective. Another example is a workplace, office example. Collaborator, avoider example. Chen is a collaborator. She values working issues through thoroughly. Her colleague, David, is an avoider who finds that process exhausting and tiresome. So when Chen tries to address a, for example, project issue, David changes the subject and cracks the jokes and talks about something else. Chen interrupts or interprets this as David not caring. David feels like Chen is making a big deal out of everything. Right? So the system creates mutual frustration but remains stable because neither person understands the pattern. Neither person understands the pattern. that they are kind of co-creating. This is the problem. So, naturally then, so the question is, what do you actually do with all this information? How do you intervene in a conflict style system? What's the solution? What can be done? A few steps. Allow me to share with you. Step number 1, identify your dominant style. Reflect honestly. When you're in a tense situation, when tension is arising, when conflict is just about to erupt, what's your automatic response? Do you fight? Do you flee? Smooth things over? Split the difference midway? Or dig deep for deep resolution? What is your natural approach? Notice the contexts where it shows up most strongly. You might compete at work, for example. Okay, you might have a competing conflict style at work, but you might have an accommodative style at home. You might have a collaborative style with friends, but have an avoidant style with family members. Your style is often context dependent. Pay attention to that as well. Secondly, understand the function it served. Ask yourself, what did this style protect me from? So if it is comparative style, what is it protecting me from? What did it help me achieve? If it is accommodative style, what did it help me achieve? How is it helping me? If you're an avoider, maybe conflict meant abandonment or rage. So avoidance just kept you safe. If you're a competitor, maybe compliance meant losing yourself, losing your identity, losing your power. So fighting back preserved your identity, right? So this isn't about blame, it's about understanding that your style is adaptive, not defective. Let me repeat that. Many people often think that a conflict style is a character flaw. I hear this again and again and again. Many people come to me and say, isn't it her problem? Isn't it his problem? He's like that. It's a character flaw. But remember, conflict styles are adaptive. They are not defective per se. They are not defective pieces of your personality trait. Step 3. Recognize the system pattern you're co-creating with whoever it is on the other side. Look at your current relationships. What patterns emerge when your conflict style meets theirs? If you withdraw and they pursue, so you're withdrawing and they are chasing, you're in a pursuer distancer dynamic. If you both accommodate, you're in a conflict avoidance dynamic. If you both compete, you're in perpetual combat. So the system is the pattern. See it clearly. Try and see it as clearly as you can. Step number 4 is find the leverage points. Here's where small changes can shift the system. Let me give you a few examples for each conflict style. For avoiders, the leverage point is engaging slightly earlier, just before your nervous system fully shuts down. Before you shut down, just engage. You don't need to become a competitor for this to happen. You just need to stay at least present 10% longer than usual instead of shutting down immediately. So try saying something like this: I need a moment, but I'll come back to this. I need a moment, but I'll come back to this. That's different from indefinitely canceling it, indefinitely avoiding the issue, right? So you're staying in the system whilst managing your nervous system. So that's one way, that's a leverage point. If you're a competitor, the leverage point is pausing before you escalate yourself. When you feel the urge to kind of win the game, just ask, what do I actually need here? Is it to be right, or is it to be connected? Ask yourself that question. And try saying something like this: I'm feeling defensive, so can we slow down a little bit? Simple, right? That kind of interrupts the competition cycle. So that's a leverage point if you're a competitor. If you're an accommodator, the leverage point is voicing one small need before agreeing. Don't agree blindly, immediately, but voice at least one small need. You don't have to transform again into a competitor for doing this. Just practice saying something like this: I'm happy to compromise, but I also need X or Y or Z or whatever it may be. That is a leverage point. For compromisers, for example, the leverage point is recognizing when collaboration is not possible or collaboration is not even needed. Not every disagreement requires deep processing and thinking. Sometimes good enough is good enough. That's enough. So that was number 4. Step number 5 is communicate about the pattern. So once you see the system, name it. Not in the heat of conflict, but in a calm moment when you have calmed down. So something like this: I've noticed that when I withdraw, you tend to push harder, and when you push harder, I withdraw more. I think we are stuck in a loop. Can we try something different? That is a way to communicate and name what is going on. This moves you from blaming individuals to addressing the pattern. It moves you from saying you are the fault, I am the fault, he is the fault, she is the problem. It moves from blaming to understanding the underlying pattern, naming it, and communicating the pattern, making others aware of the pattern and yourself about the pattern. It's collaborative, not combative, right? So here's what I really want you to take away from this episode. We are coming to a close now. Your conflict style is not a personality defect. It's adaptive. It's an adaptation that made sense in the systems you grew up in. It might not have it, but it might not serve your needs and your current relationships as they stand right now. Secondly, and more importantly, your conflict style doesn't exist in isolation, right? When it meets someone else's style, you create a system dynamic. So remember that your conflict style does not manifest by itself, it manifests in relation to someone else. And it creates a system dynamic, a pattern maintained by feedback loops and circular causality that we talked about earlier. But the good news The good news is that once you see the pattern, you can intervene, you can step in. You don't need to kind of overhaul your entire personality to do this. You just need to shift your behavior at high leverage points. Those moments where small change kind of interrupts and breaks the loop, the circular causality loop. This is what expands your capacity for healthier conflict. Not becoming someone different, but becoming more flexible. Having more tools in your toolbox. That's what we are looking to provide you. Responding to what the situation needs rather than defaulting to the only automatic strategy that you have in your kitty right now. In the next episode, we are going deeper. We are going to be looking at why we fight in the first place. The real reasons beneath the surface content. Because as I said, and as I often say, it's never really about the dishes in the kitchen. Rarely is. If this episode has resonated with you in some way, leave a comment. Leave a comment letting me know which conflict style you recognize or you notice in yourself. And if you want to dive deeper into some of these ideas, I kind of write a weekly newsletter where I explore psychology, systems thinking, and how we navigate relationships. Link will be in the descriptions. So, thanks for watching our very first episode of season 3. Until I see you next time, keep flourishing. Ciao for now.